Have you ever taken a leap and wondered if you made the right choice? Like you finally did the thing you were afraid to do, but now you're standing on the side thinking, okay, what now? Like you broke through that invisible wall, but you're not sure what you're supposed to do with this new territory you're in? That's transformation. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Walking It Out. I am your girl, Latrice Clark Jordan, and I'm so glad you're here for episode 3. If you've been with me since episode 1, or if you just joined us last week in episode 2, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. And if this is your first time listening, welcome to the conversation. I'm really glad you found us. So in episode 2, we talked about fear. We talked about how fear keeps us stuck, how it disguises itself as logic, and how it convinces us that we need to have everything figured out before we can take the first step. And I shared with you that I almost didn't even start this podcast because of fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being judged, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. But here I am. I did it anyway. I took that first step. And today I want to talk to you about what happened after that. Because here's the thing. Taking that first step doesn't just move you forward. It changes you. It transforms you. And that's what we're diving into today. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, your water, whatever you're sipping on, and let's walk this out together. When I think about starting this podcast, I remember sitting in my room, staring at the laptop, feeling all of the feelings. Like my heart was racing, my palms were sweaty. I had this script written out and I kept reading it over and over again, trying to make it perfect, trying to make sure I said the right things and in the right way at the right time. And the whole time there was this voice in my head saying, who do you think you are? Who's going to listen to this? What if people think you're crazy? What if you fail? But there's another voice too, a quieter voice. A voice that said, if you don't, if this is exactly what you're supposed to do, what if somebody needs to hear it? And so I pressed record. I took that first step. And I'm not going to lie to you, it was terrifying. But it was also the beginning of something I didn't know I needed. Because here's what I've learned. The life you want is on the other side of that first step. And I don't just mean the external life, the things you can see. I mean the internal life, the person you become, the freedom you experience, the peace you find, the purpose you step into. So let me break this down because I want you to see what I've seen. I want you to understand what God has done in my life since I've took that first step. First, let's talk about personal growth and identity. Before I started this podcast, I was struggling with who I was. I was still people pleasing. I was still trying to fit into boxes that other people created for me. And I was still hiding parts of myself because I was afraid of what people would think. But when I started showing up here, week after week, being honest, being vulnerable, being real, something shifted. I started to own my own story. I started to own my own voice. I started to own who God created me to be. And let me tell you, this is freedom. When you stop trying to be who everybody else wants you to be and start being who God called you to be, that's when you start living. That's when you start walking in your identity. I'm not saying I have it all figured out because I keep saying that in episode 2 and episode 1 because I really want y'all to get that in your spirit. I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm not saying I don't still have moments where I doubt myself or where I slip back into old patterns. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm not is the same person I was when I pressed record on episode 1. I've grown. I've changed. And that growth didn't happen because I had everything together. It happened because I just took the step. And secondly, relationships, and community. Y'all, this is a big one. Because when I started this podcast, I didn't know who was going to listen. I didn't know if anyone was going to even care. But what I found is that when you show up as yourself, when you're honest about your struggles and your journey, you attract people who are on the same path. I've connected with people I've never even met otherwise. I've had conversations that have encouraged me, challenged me, and even reminded me that I'm not alone. I've built community in a way that I didn't even know was possible. And here's the beautiful part. It's not just about what I'm giving, it's about what I'm receiving. Because when you step into your purpose, God surrounds you with people you need. He brings the right people into your life at the right time. And that's exactly what He's done for me. I'm not isolated anymore. I'm not trying to do life by myself. I have a community of people who are walking this out with me. And honestly, that community is you. Those of you who listen, those of you who reach out, y'all are my community. And then there's purpose. This is one that gets me every time. Because for so long, I felt like I was just going through the motions. I was doing what I was supposed to do, checking all the boxes, playing the role. But I didn't feel like I was living in my purpose. Starting this podcast changed that. It gave me a platform to use my voice. It gave me a way to share my story and to encourage other people. It gave me a sense of calling that I hadn't felt in a long time. And the crazy thing is, I didn't even know this was my purpose until I started doing it. I didn't have some grand revelation where God showed me a detailed path. I just had a nudge, a whisper, a feeling that this is what I was supposed to do. And when I obeyed that nudge, when I took that first step, everything started to make sense. The pieces started to come together. The dots started to connect. And I realized this is what I was made for. Not because I'm perfect, not because I have all the answers, but because I was willing to show up, to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to trust that God is going to use it. And lastly, my faith journey. Y'all, this is a personal one because my faith has always been important to me, but it hasn't always been easy. I've had seasons where I felt close to God, and then I had seasons where I felt distant. I had moments of clarity, and I have moments of doubt. But starting this podcast has deepened my faith in a way I didn't expect. Because every time I sit down to record, I'm reminded that I can't do this on my own. I'm reminded that I need God. I need His wisdom. I need His strength. I need His guidance. And every time I press publish, I'm reminded that He's faithful. Because He shows up. He provides. He opens doors. He makes a way. My faith isn't just something I talk about anymore. It's something I'm living. It's something I'm walking out. And that's because I took the step. I trusted Him even when I was afraid. I obeyed even when I didn't have all the answers. Freedom and peace. This is the one thing I didn't even know I was missing until I found it. Because for so long, I was carrying so much weight. The weight of other people's expectations, the weight of perfectionism, the weight of fear. But when I started this podcast, when I started showing up as myself, when I started being honest about my journey, the weight started to lift. I started to experience a freedom that I haven't felt in years. I'm not worried about being perfect anymore. I'm not worried about what people think. I'm not worried about failing because I know that God is with me. I know that He's got me. I know that He's going to finish what He started. And that brings peace. A peace that doesn't make sense. A peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace that can only come from God. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about Philippians chapter 1 and verse 6, because this verse has become my anchor. It says, "Be confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." Let me say that again. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Do you hear that? God started something in you, and he's not going to leave it unfinished. He's going to complete it. He's going to see it through. But here's the thing. You have to take the first step. You have to say yes. You have to move, because God doesn't complete what you never start. When I started this podcast, I didn't know what it was going to become. I didn't know how it was going to change me. I didn't know the doors it was going to open or the people it was going to connect with me. And all I knew was that God was nudging me to do it. And when I said yes, and when I took the first step, he began a good work. And he's been carrying it on ever since. Every episode I record, every conversation I have, every message I receive from someone who says, "This encouraged me," that's God's completing the work. That's him showing me that he's faithful. That's him reminding me that I didn't make a mistake. And the same is true for you. Whether the first step is for you, whatever that thing is that God is nudging you to do, when you say yes, he's going to begin a good work and he's going to complete it. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know how it's going to turn out. You just have to trust that he who began the work will finish it. So here's what I want you to hear today. The life you want is on the other side of the first step. The freedom you're craving is on the other side of that first step. The purpose you're searching for is on the other side of that first step. The community you need is on the other side of that first step. The peace you're longing for is on the other side of that first step. The identity you're trying to find is on the other side of that first step. You don't get the transformation without the step. You don't get the breakthrough without the obedience. You don't get the completion without the beginning. I know it's scary. I know it's hard. I know you don't have all the answers, but you don't need them. You just need to trust God. You just need to trust that God is with you. You just need to believe that he's going to finish what he starts. So again, I ask you, what's your first step? What's that thing that God has been nudging you to do? What's that dream that you've been putting off? What's that conversation you've been avoiding? What's that decision you've been delaying? Name it, acknowledge it, and then take the first step. Because the life you want, the life God has for you, is waiting on the other side. So before we wrap up today, I want you to know what's coming next week. In episode 4, I have a special guest joining me. She's going to share her story about transitions, about taking her first steps, and about trusting God in the unknown. She recently made a major move from Bermuda back to the United States, and her story is going to encourage you. So make sure you stay tuned in next week. You don't want to miss it. She's special to me. And we'll tell you why in the next episode. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for walking this out with me again. And remember, God who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. So take the step. Don't be afraid, and watch what God does. I'll see you next week. And until next time, keep walking it out. I'm your girl, Latrice Clark Jordan, and remember to have grace for yourself.